what is the legacy you want to leave to your daughters?
Wow, fucking heavy.
Jesus,
that's heavy, Chris. Damn, that's gonna take
real
a
fast.
Let's go in. We're going in.
oh. But you know what? I think if I'm going to talk about it in terms of my own lessons and what I've learned on my journey doing Surfing Corporate and working with Aileen and doing this passion project, and as hard as it's been, as you know, like sometimes we want to like hit our heads against the wall because it's been so challenging at some points. At least I can say I fucking put myself out there. And I challenged the conventions I thought I had of myself. And now hearing you guys, and because I've always been the proper one. Like when I tell this story and people were like, oh my God, that's so you. When I was in elementary school, I was in 5th grade. I didn't have to take any tests for like maybe 75% of the school year because my teacher decided I was a good student and he was just going to give me an A and I was his assistant. So I would give the class the tests. So I would stand in front of the class and read the spelling questions that they would have to answer.
Oh my God. Oh my God.
I would like have to file things and
my head just fucking exploded, Glenda. I mean,
like 10-year-old me.
It fucking makes sense though. Like
100%. Of course it does.
So, but and Aileen said it perfectly. That's the way my brain is wired. If I'm going to do things, it has to be perfect. And I have to be and we've talked about this, you know, on the second podcast that we did with you, Cherry, with, you know, that I have this fear of failure. And if I don't know that I'm going to do things to 1,000%, I'm going to kick ass at it, I just won't do it because I don't want to do that. And when Aileen was fucking relentless about like, you gotta do it, you're gonna do it, I was like, okay, well, I was like, who's gonna listen? Nobody. How are we gonna fine, whatever. I'm like, well, okay, fine, let's do it. And then I was like, holy shit, wait, what? What did I say yes to? What did I agree to? Like for that brief moment of like, fine, fuck it, okay, let's go for it. When it started actually hitting me of like, oh no, this is serious. Like, okay, if you said yes, now you got to go in 1,000%. And we did. And I put myself out there and before each podcast, I would get the butterflies and I would get nervous and we would prep and we would know and we would have our questions and we would do our research and all that shit. But I would still get the, oh, what if I fuck it up? What if I fuck it up? I'm like, okay, but Aileen's a master. She's Edward Scissorhands at editing. So if I fuck it up, she'll edit. But part of this learning and part of what I want to be able to tell my daughters is if there's something that you are passionate about and you feel 1,000% in your bones that you want to do, go out there and fucking do it. Put yourself out there.
Say yes.
Do it. And you know what? I got out of my comfort zone and I did it. And I still hate the way my voice sounds.
I must interject here to say, and I'm going to find this file. So the first episode we ever did, Christine, we went all in. We traveled to New York. Yeah. We rented a podcast studio. Like we did the whole shebang, right? But I want to pull up that first recording I did with Glenda. Because basically it was like, this is Surfing Corporate, and then it was like, I'm Glenda Pacanins, and I'm like, so I let her do the whole thing. It's like, and we are here, and then like she finishes, and I'm like, okay, that was great, Glenda, but could you say that like you're not dead?
Can you have energy at all?
Can you say that
voice?
again, like you actually mean it? And the evolution from the Glenda that showed up in that first voiceover to Glenda, like it's just a completely different person. And she was so opposed to the idea of being able to do it. And I think one of the things that most makes me proud is girl, look at you. Let me flex.
Right. But you pushed me and you saw something in me and you gave me that sense of comfort. So thank you for that. Thank you for letting me explore this side of myself that I would have never, ever fucking done. And probably for nobody else would I have fucking done it.
But if Glenda, if you were to take a corporate job tomorrow, Do you think this whole experience with surfing corporate would impact the corporate persona you would be in a future job? Or would you go back to being perfect Glenda, like the kid
honestly, truly, I think it depends on the job. Really. I think it really depends on the job. And I'm being honest.
Yeah.
Because if I'm in a place where I can be myself and less guarded and less corporate-y, then yeah, fuck it, of course. But if I'm in a place or at an organization or at an industry that's still very buttoned up, then I will absolutely go back to the default mode. But still trying to be myself. I mean, even on the podcast, I've always said it. And I just said it to Chris now. You can take the girl out of corporate. You can't take corporate out of the girl. It's just the way my brain is wired. Yeah. But part of the thing that I've loved about our podcast here is listening to so many people who've had pivots in their career. Right here, perfect example. Mm-hmm. How she pivoted into something absolutely different from what she was doing and is thriving again. Entrepreneurial thriver. Yes. I'm stealing that. That is my new life goal. I love that. And I think that because at least the way I was brought up, you get a job, you're grateful for that job, you kick ass at that job, and you're at that job until you can, or until, your time is up and then you part ways.
You die.
You die or they kick you out. That's really the two things. You die, you get kicked out, or you find something else.
Yeah.
But I think part of the thing that now gives me so much more hope is that there are so many other opportunities to do things and be creative and be passionate about things that don't just involve a job. I'm trying to think through all the people we've met and we've talked to that give me inspiration and hope for
a different
life outside of corporate
than the one that we grew up with as the model, right?
Yeah.
Well, and I think what I would say, Glenda, is like you're the first corporate rule I ever learned was learn how to read the room.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that is, by the way, a tool for life in general.
Absolutely.
Tap into your empathy, read the vibes and the energy happening. But I actually think that while I do think you would adjust to that audience appropriately, I do think you would take more risks. I do. I think you're braver because of that.
I think so too. I thank you for that. I think so too. But that also comes with age, honestly. I think that comes with, no, truthfully, like,
menopause.
That's a whole other subject for a whole other podcast. No, but truthfully, that's something that I know that for sure I would do, because I feel I'm more comfortable now in my own skin anyway, because you get to a point where you're like, okay, whatever, and what's the worst that could happen? You find something else, you figure things out. Like, you get to a point in your life where life is giving you enough curveballs and like shit that you're like, I'll figure it out.
Okay, I want to follow up on that. But first I have to pee. Hold on. I'll be right back.
Yeah.
Isn't it?
Wow. Is a question, right?
I am.
Okay.
Because you guys, when we talked about legacy, and I was talking to you guys about my daughter, and I know that cuts us really hard because a son, yes, raising a son is wonderful and all that, but raising a daughter is a little bit of your mirror.
Yes.
And I just think that both of you are such passionate momagers, maybe.
Yes.
What legacy do you want to leave to your daughter?
Something that I've learned, and again, I credit this podcast to, is learning all about the role of women and how the challenges that we face that, sure, we'd been exposed to in the day-to-day, and we kind of had a notion, but looking at all the research that we've done for so many episodes is understanding, okay, how the system works, how we play a part of it. Because like Glenda and I always, when we tackle these topics, it's like, this isn't about like, the patriarchy, we're victims. But it's like, this is a reality. This is how things work. This is how we as women are conditioned to work. And how do we face that? And how do we tackle that in a way that's positive for everyone? No, for men, for women, for the people that are coming up in the system. So I had zero knowledge of that before, zero knowledge of that scientifically in a research way before doing Surfing Corporate. In all honesty, like I knew it empirically, I knew it, but I didn't have all the data that I have today to understand why I reacted in certain ways, why men reacted in certain ways, and what was behind all of that. So I am definitely hoping that these learnings that Glenda, you and I have, done throughout all the research that through the experts that we've interviewed, it's like, oh, okay. And again, this is something that isn't only about the women, it's about the men as well. And until you have that knowledge, until you understand your own biases, where they come from, and what you can do to make that better, you just don't know. So I don't know. I felt like sincerely, I've learned so much about that. And about taking agency and not just playing like, well, this is the way it works. Like, well, what are you gonna do? It's like that's also an easy way out. What can you do to take an active role in making this better for yourself and for everybody else? So I'm hoping to impart those learnings, with my kid, with you're the CEO of your life, kid, and you can either choose to be, well, this is how, how it worked, or I understand how it works. What am I going to do to make this work in my favor? You have agency. And my kid, I want her to understand that she has agency from a very young age. And that will be a pain in the ass for me and her dad. But I'd rather her be a pain in the ass for us now. And when she is faced with these type of circumstances that I was not equipped to deal with when I was young in the work world, she will be much better equipped to deal with than I was. So that is my sincere hope for her. For boys coming up in this, again, it's not about women. It's about us understanding as human beings how things have worked, how we're wired, and how together we can make that different for the future. And that sounds super new agey, but I strongly believe in that. I strongly believe in that. And I have learned so much from going down the rabbit holes of research that we go through to do every freaking episode and every single guest that we have on. And it's like, oh, I hadn't thought of that. I hadn't seen it that way. Like if for me, just if we were able to help anyone along the way to have more knowledge about how human nature works, how organizational psychology works, and how you're not alone, because I think in our time, as we're all Gen Xers, right? Hello, folks. We grew up without internet. I did not have freaking internet when I was in my 20s.
Internet, cell phones.
Exactly.
Come on.
So you had no exposure to any other knowledge otherwise than your direct boss or your direct colleagues. Like that was, again, like I didn't have a family that worked in corporate. Like there was just no instruction from anywhere else that wasn't your personal direct experience. And I did the best I could with what I had, but nowadays there is so much more wealth of people that can share their journeys. And even with that, like I was so immersed in the 16-hour days when I was working in corporate that I didn't have time to digest that. So if somebody had put together like, okay, like there's a ton of info. Here is what for me is more helpful for you. Jesus, I think my experience would have been better. I come from Venezuela, from Caracas. I wasn't in the US. I didn't go to business school. So maybe other people's experience is very different than mine, right? I had a very basic educational experience. I learned so much from leaders who were, probably clinically insane, but taught me a lot. I learned so much from the people that worked for me as employees. nobody taught me how to, leadership. No. It was like, here's a team of 10 people, lead. So it's like, so it was so much, kind of like, just figure it out along the way. And I hear a lot of today people saying like, oh, your work people aren't your friends, and blah, you just go. I have the most amazing friends that I have acquired from work that I would die for. Like, these people are people that taught me so much, that made me a better leader, that made me a better person, that I don't know. I try to surround myself with people that I admire, that I respect, that make me better. And because of that, I've made a tremendous amount of friends that have made me a better human being. So I am very fortunate. I don't think I could do it any other way. I can't go into a work relationship like, yeah, send me the document and I'll leave at 5. Fine for whoever that works for. For me, it just didn't work like that. And because of that, I have so many people that I absolutely adore, admire, professionally and personally. I find it hard to separate those two things. And maybe it's because I'm a Gen Xer that didn't know better, but that's just how it worked for me. And welcome to my TED Talk. I'm going to shut up now.
Soapbox and everything. She brought it out.
Nice. That was great.
But I actually think there's a beauty in not knowing. There is a beauty in experimenting. And I think that because we didn't have access, we did have to figure it out on the job, which made it a little harder. But I also think it made it more rewarding.
Yes.
Because of the discovery that you talked about of your tenacity, your relentlessness, of your ingenuity and creativity and innovation and all of the things that made you who you are.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think that the rest of the generations behind us really have the benefit of the discovery. And I think there's a beauty in that discovery and the relationships and the depth of them. And like, I felt the love you have for these people that have been in the trenches in the foxhole with you. You know what I mean? Like, I feel that.
Peace.
I feel it with Glenda. Like, just like the pain and climbing out of the fucking crevasse of life. You're like, holding on by
you're so funny, Chris. I swear, you're making it sound like we're like this huge. We're not curing cancer, people. We're trying to get a job done and doing it the best we can, figuring shit out and trying to do it in a way that we respect what we're doing.
It's not the word.
No. And that's exactly what I was going to say. Yes. You're there to get a job done. You're there to, to fulfill the metrics you have and surpass and do great.
But I don't see it like that.
But at the end of the day, it's what you build with who you work with. Because still to this day, like now we've had decades of career experience. The three of us have, right?
Yes.
I'm sure we can all count all the people that we still keep in touch with from our very first jobs to our second jobs, who, mind you, 10, 15, 20 years removed from that initial work connection that you had are now people who are friends and who occupy a space in your life because you had this crazy, insane, whatever you want to call it, shared experience that bonded you. And I think that that's amazing. And I don't know. And to your point, Chris, it's so interesting the way you just framed it, about the discovery and the not knowing, and, and maybe other generations don't have it the same way. I honestly had never thought about it that way. And it's really interesting to think about it that way, because I think you're right. It's not the same. And, we talk about this all the time. It's not the same workspace, whatever industry you're in. It's not the same now. We don't live in the same world. It's a very different situation. God, we just sound like old women bitching right now.
I don't think we're old women bitching. I do not think so.
I think,
okay, good.
I think it's the last generation of just humanity as influence. Every other generation after us has technology as being influence.
Yes.
So we are the last generation where humanity and people were our influence. And I think that there was a quiet learning in that mistakes were expected without this sort of broadcasting of it.
Yes.
There was a safety in that.
Yes.
It was also, a little scary. To your point, Aileen, you had a very, very, very small group of influencers of your life, and you had to believe them or work around them or leave to find out. But I actually think we are the beneficiaries of freedom, of actual growth.
I didn't have to post on LinkedIn about my success. I was just like, okay, with the team I had, it's like, let's do this. And you just felt so successful when you did the slightest things. Like, we did this, and I don't care who else knows. We know. So it's just a different dynamic when you feel, and I feel for the new generations, right? Where you have to feel that you have to showcase this across the world, and you're competing with it. I didn't know any better. Like, I'm with my team trying to do the best that we could. It's just a completely different game, no?
Yeah.
So being open to understanding that, yeah, well, Gen Z can get on my nerves a little bit but they're living in a completely different reality than I live too. So,
dude, my two best friends in life I met at work.
There you go.
Because I didn't know who the fuck I was before that.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't know who I was so lost.
Yes.
In my environment, I didn't know who I was. I found myself in my work, and I found, to me, I can't be friends with someone unless I fucking respect their work.
Oh, yes.
I mean, foundationally, if I don't respect you as a fucking thinker, doer, creator, whatever, I can't hang with you. It ain't gonna happen. Because then I know you're not gonna work hard for my friendship.
Yeah.
Yes.
Fact.
Yeah.
You know?
Isn't that interesting? I think that's what bonds us together.
It is. It's that. And I know, Glenda, like, you're like, we're not solving, world peace or cancer, but I actually feel that we are solving the human condition in terms of what it needs. We need to feel purposeful.
Yes.
We need to feel,
absolutely. When I say, I said, our like the work that we did, it's not like, we were trying, but I think
catalyst, right?
Hearing you guys talking about this point and being both so strongly like focused on what it means to you does make me a little sad, though, for the younger generations, because it's not just the way they've grown up and not just the generational differences, but just work is different. Just think about hybrid and think about remote and think about how many people are up in arms about having to go to the office 2 days a week or 3 days a week. What you lose out when you don't have that connection with your people. And it's not just your team, by the way. Aileen, you and I were on different teams. Technically, we work together all the time, but it's not just your team. It's who you are around, how you support each other. You end up growing as a person. Chris, you said it beautifully. You didn't know who you were. You kind of figured your shit out. None of us knew who we were. Think about it. When you're starting your career in your 20s and you're still trying to figure out who you are as a person, how comfortable am I? Who am I? What do I want? Like, there's so much. And to find people who helped you along the way and you're still with, that is such a fucking blessing. That is a gift. So, I think that hearing you talk is kind of bittersweet for me because I feel like blessed and grateful that we had that and we were able to experience that. Yeah. And a little kind of wistful for, will my kids have that? Yeah. Will the younger generations of kids be able to I hope so. They'll figure it out. I'm sure they'll figure it out in their own way or whatever.
Path, right? They'll figure it out different path. And I think AI is, that looming unknown in their generation that could rob a little bit, but I also think that human ingenuity will outbeat it in some way, shape, or form, and creativity can't be, even though you can make art with AI, I still don't think that the human connection, the human condition, and all the experiences that we have added up to become who we are, there's no formula or algorithm for that. There's not. Look at the two of you, what you've created, how you've connected with people emotionally. I don't think that can be recreated in the the metaverse. It's not possible.
For me, it's not the end of Surfing Corporate per se. We might be, putting a nice little bow and finishing up Surfing Corporate, the podcast. But I have every belief, I don't have any doubt that Surfing Corporate will continue to live on in some form. I know Aileen, and she'll answer this for herself, but Eileen's absolutely committed. And as much as she'll have me, I want to continue to, help build the brand to the extent that I can. Whether or not I take a corporate job, I don't know. I may, if a great corporate opportunity lands in my lap or I happen to come across something, I may. I just think that there's still a lot for me to explore. The nonprofit side is always something that's very near and dear to my heart. Always, I want to remain hopeful and positive and optimistic that somehow, some way, the universe is going to put me on the path that I need to be on. That's it.
Love it.
That is the most Glenda answer ever, and I love it that you're so true to yourself. I love you.
Are you scared, Glenda? Are you actually scared right now? Like, do you have any fear of the unknown at this point?
You know what? It's not fear. Hold on. I can't frame it as fear. I can't frame it as fear of the unknown, because then truly I will like shrivel up into a ball and like I can't frame it in my brain that way. I have to frame it as an opportunity. And I am a firm believer, and Aileen makes fun of me endlessly because of my crystals and universe and Reiki candles and all that shit. But for whatever reason, call me crazy. Go ahead, crazy. Shit just happens to work out, Chris. It just
know it. I know
it. If I could continue forever doing Surfing Corporate, I would be really happy. It brings me a lot of joy because I think it's very meaningful. I've done a ton of jobs that have been amazing and fun, but doing trailers and promos maybe doesn't impact the world as much. I feel that what we've been doing, because of the things and the messages that we have been sent by viewers, listeners from across the globe. Jesus,
throwback.
So many years of viewers. But just getting those messages of thank you so much, you've helped me, like this is amazing. That is just, something that brings so much joy and so much fulfillment. That I'm now like very much seeking that high of finding something that is meaningful, that is purposeful, entertaining, but at the same time that can serve a purpose. So I'm trying to figure out what. Okay.
So before I turn the mic back over to you all for final farewells, it's my time to give you my 360 review.
Oh my God.
And I don't want to get mushy, but it's very hard because looking at your two faces, through over a decade and a half of my life, right? You both showed up for me in a way that I can't even that no one did. Let me just say that. And you actually went all the way to Jersey to do it. Taking this fucking crazy leap from my comfy corporate job. And I say comfy and like all the stuff that comes with it, right? But it was uncomfortable in a lot of ways, but it was comfy because I got paid even when I was sick and when I vacationed. I don't get that now. If I don't work, I don't get paid, right? As an entrepreneur. And the trenches of entrepreneurship has been it's been breathtaking and my backbreaking. My husband and I are holy shit. But just knowing that you guys were in my corner made me feel braver and stronger and I could do anything. And I think we all need that. I think we've talked about that, but I think it's one thing to talk about it, it's another thing to actually feel it. And there's a lot of people who I will never count that they didn't show up, but you guys did. And
that hurt.
You didn't risk your lives in that weird fucking studio in Jersey.
Yeah.
That was scary a little bit.
Yeah, that rando house.
I don't know how many times we laughed so hard that we almost peed ourselves. And Aileen clearly pees herself constantly. So That's not hard for you, but that, for me, Glenda, apparently we're camels because we never wanted to miss a thing in the meeting. You guys were my covert corporate confidants, and honestly, the fucking funnest house guests I've ever had.
Oh,
And will always be part of my family.
I love Chris. I love you so much.
Thank you for asking me to do this, and I love you.
This has meant the world to me. This has meant everything. Oh my god, I did good. I
held your shit together.
But hearing somebody that I respect and admire so much say such beautiful things and be so honest and open and such a fucking cheerleader means the world to me, honestly. And the full circle of you saying yes from the very beginning. Aileen and I prepped our asses off. We made you a wine bottle, for God's sake. Remember, Flaca? We made her a wine bottle and a candle because we wanted to impress Chris Escribano and thank her for coming on and being our first corporate podcast guest. I think that this could not have been better, sweeter, more loving and genuine. I have no words to thank you. So thank you. And Flaca, I can't say anything to you because then I really will bawl. I really will bawl and I will lose my shit and I can't. I love you. And this isn't the end.
It's not the end.
No. It's not farewell. It's not goodbye. It's ¿cómo es? Punto suspensivo. ...
I loved it. ...
Exactly.
This has been the most fulfilling professional experience I have ever had. It helped me switch to a beginner mentality and learn about a whole new industry that I was absolutely clueless about. It forced me to do cold emails and connect with people that I never would have dared to reach out to previously. It allowed me to meet so many fascinating and incredibly smart and kind people. It helped me overcome my fear of public speaking and putting myself out there, just like you, Glenda. Okay. I am so grateful to have had listeners across the globe. That is still mind-blowing to me as, somebody who did not know how to even upload a podcast. When you see the little yellow lights of places that people who are listening to you in countries that I'm very ignorant and did not know existed. That is not countries. I'm sorry, cities. Countries I know.
Okay.
But like
Thank
random
you.
cities, like again, Deception Bay. It's like what? So that has been mind blowing to me. So grateful to every person who listened and reached out to us and thanked us for helping them navigate the corporate world and make them laugh. And ultimately, the best experience is when you do something that you love and that it is also actually helping people as well. Like I cannot have asked for more. And it's an experience that hasn't been about money. It hasn't been about anything else than learning and being humbled by not knowing shit and working with people that you admire profoundly and spark joy. So Glenda, thank you so much for being submitted to my pressure and submitting to my, like, you have to do this, bitch. And Christine, thank you for being the first person who ever believed in us and showed up for us with no payoff. And I think the greatest learning out of, I don't know, for me, out of this corporate journey, when you have titles and you have quote unquote power, is like when you leave all of that behind and you genuinely care for people without wanting anything in return. I'm not wanting a job from you. I'm not wanting a position from you. I just think you're fucking amazing. And I want you to be happy and do good, amazing shit. That is success for me. And that is corporate success. So,
we've been corporate successful then.
100% successful. So is my rant on my soapbox, Chris.
What the hell was that?
Oh, fuck. Hold on, wait. I disconnected.
Really though? Come on, Chris. Really?
Playing Glenda
Happened?
Dude. And so let me ask you guys one more thing in terms of farewell. What do you want to say to your listeners? What's the parting advice? Because you always ask everybody for advice, and you ask me for advice every time I'm on your podcast, and it always fucking stops me. Like, advice, I don't know. I'm not special enough to give advice to people. I'm not like, I don't know. But I think you guys have given so much to people. They should be so thankful to you, by the way. It really was a safe space through a very, very, very tough time. It really was. I don't know if you guys realize the gravity of what you created during a time when people were in so much emotional despair and turmoil and confusion and chaos. But you guys delivered something out of the goodness of your heart to help people through that, to have a laugh, to feel heard, to feel seen. And that is a gift that will live on forever, because this podcast will go nowhere, but continue to listen to and regaled.
Well, there
And
you go. That's the right advice. That's the advice. Listen to the Surfing Corporate podcast over and over again. Listen,
Over and over again.
Can I tell you, this is a little corporate confession of my own. I oftentimes just in the car or on my walk or whatever, and I will just, because I believe the universe sends you signs of what you need to listen to sometimes, I have on occasion gone back to our Surfing Corporate podcast. And not to be, I promise you, this is not to be like completely like gratuitous in like self-promotion, but no, I really mean, because going back to what Aileen was saying about the quality of people, not just are they smart, are they intelligent, they're kind. They were so selfless in giving up so much, time, because it takes time to record these, but they were so open and honest. And most of the time, 99% of the time, I think they came in with an expectation of one thing and they left with something completely different, because I remember hearing it throughout the recording. Like at first it was a little guarded, and then they got a little less guarded. And then by the end they were throwing fuck bombs too. I was like, yes, we broke another one.
But you totally did. But every one of them.
Not all of them. I'm not going to say who, but not all of them. But I honestly though, and again, not to be gratuitous and self-promoting, but there is something really comforting about hearing voices, to me, that have given me a lot to reflect on, have given me a shit ton to laugh about, have given me so much to think about and advice. And like you just said, Chris, I don't feel like I'm wise enough to like impart all of these pearls of wisdom, but so many people that we've talked to have. And sometimes what you need is just a little reminder of, something that somebody said, and you never know what you need to hear on any given day. So
totally.
Right? I have on occasion just gone and played, whichever episode. And for whatever reason, I get something different out of that episode than the first 10 times that I heard it, when we recorded it, when we prepped it. And for whatever reason, to me, that's comforting. That's comforting, because I feel like I'm receiving some sort of message that I need to hear at that moment, at that day, at that precise juncture of, whatever's going on in my life at that moment. And that's been really comforting to me. So, hey.
Can I do a call out before you finish, Aileen, to all of the wealthy proprietors and listeners of Surfing Corporate Podcast? We the fans, want it to live on. There will be a petition started by me, Terry McGarry, to keep this on the air. And I do think if we could at least cover costs and maybe give a VIG to Aileen and Glenda to at least for their time spent. That's about it, I think, right? And then we could have the rest be advertising. I'm doing a shameless plug and advertisement to find our sugar daddy. Sugar mama, we're open. We're very open to either, because I don't think we the people, want this to go away. It has truly been a gift to my career and the transition that I went through and continue to transition. Thank you both for this gift. Truly. Aileen, close us out. She's like, fuck.
Yeah.
Too much pressure.
Save the podcast.
So I've just been thinking, because I have an 11-year-old daughter who is, navigating middle school, and send thoughts and prayers, please. But as I'm thinking about the takeaways, and as you said, Chris, like, what are the major learnings and whatnot, and something that she said and something that I've heard on the podcast, it's so funny that they link together. And you, Chris, talked about how people in corporate are the same as they are in high school. So I'm trying to find a link of all of these things together. And what my daughter is struggling with right now is fitting in, right? And being part of what it means to be cool and what it means to be part of something. And many of the conversations that I have with her is about, the difference between fitting in and belonging. And when you belong to something, you don't have to change who you are. You're going to be celebrated by who you are. And one of the things that our latest guest that we had on last week, Peggy Northrup, was precisely about: find a place where you are celebrated and not tolerated, not just tolerated. Ooh. And I feel that that is so powerful. And I feel that it's like the same message that I want to give my kid is the same message I would give to myself if I were looking back at myself, trying to how do I fit into this environment where people are like this? And again, it's not easy. It's tricky. And there are different parts in your career where you will have to accommodate and do different things. But at this point in my life, where I have lived through a ton of different, very difficult experiences, I really want to hold on to the belief that I want to find a place where I am celebrated and not tolerated, because I believe I have a ton of things to offer and a ton of things to bring to the table that I should be celebrated for. And I have a ton of flaws. Do not get me wrong. I have a ton of things that is like, oh, girl, shut the fuck up. But then it's like, where do I belong? That the things that I bring to the table are seen as strengths and not weaknesses. And that is something that it has taken me a minute to get to. And I think the three of us, in our very, very different ways, can agree to that. And when I was younger, I felt that I needed to find people that were just like me. As I've grown older, I've understood the value of finding people that are not like me. Glenda, who wipes her dog's ass and paws before the dog enters the house. I'm like, what the fuck? And I'm like, I adore her to pieces, because I had never seen life through the lens of someone like Glenda. And it's like, this compliments me. This opens my world view of how you can see things in a different way. And at the same time, it's like, I don't have to change who I am, and she'll celebrate me for who I am. And how do we work together to make this thing a stronger thing? So I think that was a ramble of one.
No, that was amazing, and that was powerful, and that was beautiful. And shout out to Peggy Northrup for giving us the ultimate pearl of wisdom. And I can't think of a better way to end the Surfing Corporate podcast than on that very amazing, life-changing motto, by the way.
Say it again, Aileen. Be at a place where you are
celebrated, not tolerated.
And that goes for
amazing?
That's for anything. Think about it as a life goal for anything. Relationships, school, like anything.